Hello, how is everyone going? Today we're going to be looking at part 2 of the SAWCQ 2024 winners deck profile, of course that being Juan, Torre, Spright, Melfi, Frog deck. If you haven't watched part 1 of the video where I break down the deck, please have a look. It'll be in the description below and I'll try and put it on the screen as well for easy access. In this video we're going to be doing a couple of test hands. We're going to play some practice games as well as matches just to test out the deck, and I'll give you my thoughts as I talk about the deck as well as some explanations and combos and guides. I hope you enjoy and take care. So something to keep in mind right now is that of course these hands are all going to be going first hands because we're just going to be testing against, well, an empty board. If we do end up drawing a bricky hand, we will just take mental note that it wasn't the best draws, but it is what it is. We'll be able to figure out whether or not we can play through some of their boards based on what other non-engine cards we end up drawing. So for example, in this hand here we have just the Ash Blossom and nothing else to interrupt. So going first, this will be quite a strong hand, whereas if we were to go second, it'll be a bit rough. That being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you check out part 1 if you haven't already, where I break down the deck and give my opinions on some of the cards and some of the engines included. Enough about that, let's jump into the video. I'm going to start with the normal beaver, of course, which is going to special an angler. We are then going to special the carrot in defense, and then we're going to go straight into a Gigantic. Gigantic is going to trigger. So we can either choose to go for the Toad, or we can go for the Spright stuff with the blue and the jet. I am going to opt for the, I want to say, let me have a think. So swap, that's just an auto. Yeah, I think we'll go for the Spright stuff. So something that's good about this deck is that if you are unable to bring out the Spright stuff, or alternatively if you can't bring out the Toad stuff because you end up summoning the Spright side instead, there's a bit of lag, well then we'll still have the Melfi stuff to reborn, which is quite consistent. You basically have 2 ways of getting to an Omni, if not both of them already. Sprint's going to dump. And I'll just activate the spawn trap once, just to show you guys that I'm trying to activate it in the graveyard, but I'm not going to click into the graveyard every time. I'm just going to dump and say it verbally, I think, from now on. Summoning Forest effect. Where is Penny? There it is. Okay, Penny's there. And then we will set. In fact, with this hand, we don't even really need to go for a penny, but I just went for the search just in case anyway. You can also just choose to not summon the Melfi of the Forest, instead searching or specialing something like the IP, because you already have an Xyz, and you also already have the caddy in hand because I hard drew it. So if that's the case, yeah, you can choose to just make an IP so you can SP banish instead. So during the M phase, caddy's going to summon, and you pass turn. So in terms of interruptions, spell trap negate, a bounce, a double cross could either be used to special back the Herald for another Omni negate. Alternatively, you can also just take one of their monsters, and then Forest is going to finish chain as well, and you have an Ash in hand. Let's go for our next combo. I'm going to do 3 combos in total. If we break on one, then I'll do another combo. Alright, someone asked in one of my previous videos why, or whether or not I should start with a starter or a beaver. As in, do I bait out an Ash in the main phase with a beaver, or do I try and play around draw with a starter? I think you always just try and play around draw. There's no reason not to, unless you have talents. Blue, searches jet. In the draw phase, we'll go main phase 1. Special red, special carrot, special jet effect. To search double cross. And typically, if you have both red and carrot on board already, just link off into sprint instead, because you can basically play around any hand traps they might have. And then angler, okay. I did mention I'm just so used to like my muscle memory just clicking the 2 spell trap zone. Here we are going to make a gigantic. And we're going to go for the toad stuff because Melfi stuff is a little bit weaker than the toad stuff. If we can afford to go for the toad stuff, absolutely. Go for the toad stuff instead. Just because toad is a stronger body and follow-up, etc, etc. There we go. Then affecting graveyard. Oh my god. I hate how the text like just shrinks itself vertically like that. To grab freezing chains of the ice barrier. Effect. Make a toad, and we're going to move this toad over here. So double cross can either be used to take one of their monsters, or we can special toad back. So in fact, I'm going to put it here, right? Because during the standby phase, I still want to summon with toad. So toad's going to detach and then summon out Swapfrog. Swapfrog you can dump with that during the standby phase if you want to during your opponent's turn. And then you can use Toad's effect to send Swapfrog to do whatever. Potentially setting their monster or setting their spell trap. Obviously, if you're clogging up your zone, you can choose not to, or you can also double cross to just take their monster and put them under an Xyz instead. You have an Omni Negate here, potentially 2. We have the Bounce of Sprint. We have the red negates and destroy, carrot negate and destroy. Could be 2 different hand traps, but we drew 2 draws this time. Let's go for the next one. Okay, and it looked like a brick until we drew the last card. Swapfrog is still a 1-card combo, and I don't think you should make Toad if you just have Swapfrog. So let's go for it. That is going to dump Mirror Mage. Mirror Mage is going to trigger in graveyard to grab you the brick. We're going to activate the brick to special back the Mirror Mage. And we are just going to go for Gigantic here. Gigantic effect. Special blue. Blue to grab Jet. Special Jet, trigger Jet. Go link into Sprint. And Sprint is just going to make us the Melfi stuff. Going to overlay into Forest. Forest is going to detach for cost to search. For Caddy. And then we have the Finish Chain on field. During the end phase, this is going to summon. We'll have Impum set, Cosmic set, Double Cross set, and Droplet set. And potentially Droplet could send off a couple of free things. For example, Freezing Chains will definitely be sent. And of course we have Ash in hand as well. So we could do something like double cross the Herald back when they summon, and then chain Droplet if we wanted to get something again. We just have so much interruption here. That's pretty good, solid. Even just do 1 card, but of course if they hand trap that 1 card, then your board is pretty doomed. You do have a lot of ways to, you know, kind of stop them from playing as well. But yeah, let's do 1 more. Okay, so with this one, it's a bit unfortunate, and this is exactly why playing both the Ice Barrier stuff and the Melfi stuff can stink a little bit sometimes. You might draw a hand like this where it's just a little bit iffy. You can make the argument to play Almirage for this 1 card, but I really don't think these hands are really all too common. But yeah, okay, let's see if we draw another card, if it'll unbrick, because we could be going second, and that works. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this, pretend we're going second. We do have a going second card as well as Caught By, which is kind of a going second card, potentially against Promethean Princess especially. So, Beaver effect. from the angler, and we have the bonus of being able to pitch the angler from hand using a card like Phoenix. He doesn't play Cerberus. I personally kind of like Cerberus, especially against a card like Baguska if they don't put it in the EMZ. So after that, we are going to just overlay. Well, if we're going second, we'll put it in attack position. Effect. And we'll go for the Spright stuff to try and OTK. If they hand trap us, we take one of the monsters. If they, if they hand trap us with a monster, we can code by it. If they impalm us, unlucky. So it's jet effect. And because we're going second, we're probably gonna grab a Camo Burst most of the time. From here, well, because I don't really know what I'm playing against, I could just go into a Nightmare Phoenix. Sprint won't work because obviously I don't have the angler in my deck. But yeah, let's do one final one because that was kind of a brick. Okay, well, these two cards again, that's a bit unfortunate, but we can still play this. This is good. Beaver effect, and we have one hand trap as well. So 4 engine cards, 1 hand trap. Summon the red before you go for gigantic if you're trying to be nib safe. I think here we just go for... So the thing is we have Caddy in hand already. So we can either go for a mannequin after we summon Sprint, or we can just go for the frog stuff now, which seems better. So if we frog... Yeah, actually I think we can go for the frog stuff. Frog to dump the other frog, bounce this to hand, dump the other frog. Okay, let's do this. So swap frog, dump the other swap frog to deck thin. Swap frog effect to go to hand for cost. Pitch this, special swap, leave the other one in grave. And then mirror mage effect. I guess if you wanted to, you could wait for the special summon to dump, because then you can chain block. You can go mirror mage 1 to search, swap frog 2 to dump. But if they haven't negated gigantic, then like what are they doing? And then freezing chains effect. Bring this back. We can summon Toad, and we'll use these two to go into Sprint. And because we started with Beaver, that means we can't search Beaver off of Caddy because we already have Penny in hand. So what we're going to do is we're not going to go for the Phoenix Chain Melfi. Instead, we're just going to maybe make IP. Or we can make Mannequin Cat. So either Mannequin Cat or you can go into IP now. I think I just prefer IP overall. IP into SP is so strong. And then pass turn, during their standby phase, trigger Toad to summon the last remaining swap frog. Alright, and let's look at our end board. So we have, oh, I forgot to summon Caddy during the end phase. So we have a Toad for an Omni Negate, we have an IP to link into SP, we have Caddy to bounce to hand and to summon Herald of the Arclight after searching Penny. We have Sprint to bounce off Toad, and then Toad can also send swap here, or we can use IP to link off with swap. And then after Toad uses its effect, we can add back the Nibble Beaver, and we also have draw in hand for the potential turn skip, depending on what deck they're playing. No searching. Alright, let's jump into some games now. So our first game is going to be up against Nuggets with Ketchup, who is at 229 rating with Tenpai today. And we have one hand trap and some board breakers, talents, and lightning storm, and we have one of these scissors paper rock, so we're going to go first. I want to use this match not because not to showcase the matchup, but more so just to show what we can do with our hand given some certain awkward scenarios. So we can see here we have 2 reds, Gamma Burst, Droll, and Carrot. So basically one card is dead, one card is awkward and will be used as fodder, and we have no way of generating more bodies without sacrificing some of these. So let's see what we end up doing. normal red, special carrot, and then link those off into sprint, only because I don't want to go for gigantic here just in case he ends up hand trapping me and I instantly lose. I don't have more follow-up, especially ogre. I guess I made the right call here just by accident, but going for sprint here was just a bit safer for me. Dumping angler to summon 2 beavers, to summon the gigantic sprite, and right after my test hands just then, you should be able to see that like sometimes you just don't have access to Toad because you need to summon the blue and the jet instead to grab more interruption. And so those will go into Melfield the Forest, which is then going to summon Caddy. And then we're going to set both Gamma Burst and Double Cross. And then during end phase, Caddy will summon. And that is it. So on their turn, they are going to start with Lightning Storm to wipe back row. Here I made a small mistake of chaining in the wrong order. Obviously we should have gone Gamma Burst 1 and then Double Cross 2 to summon back. And Gamma Burst could have then buffed Carrot as well, but because I did it in this order, obviously Carrot doesn't get the buff. So Lightning Storm essentially did nothing, which is good. We trade 1 for 1. And here's the Kashtira stuff. So the Kashtira, Fenrir comes down. They try and use the effect, but obviously they can't because we have triggers. Caddy's going to search Penny. And then on resolution, he goes Fenrir effect, trying to target the red. We finish it. And then Penny will summon the Herald. And so they're basically down 2 cards with nothing else right now. Talents is going to try and draw. We get rid of the Talents with the carrot. I don't use Herald because obviously Talents is activate 1 Talents per turn. Which means if I use Herald to negate the activation, if he had another one, then he could activate it. So Kaiman also happens to be one of those, which is unfortunate. I did want to stop it though. I'm not really sure why he didn't use it during the battle phase, but that is besides the point. Maybe he was trying to bait out so he could go Chandra. He tried to attack with Fenrir, which obviously can't. Chandra is going to attack in to summon Fadra during the damage step by using its own effect, and then he takes damage. And then on summon, I decided not to sprint just because I feel like he could have just chained the other one to Synchro. Well, either one, to be honest. And so he goes into Bident. Bident's going to target Fadra to summon back, and there was no reason not to just red here, so I red tributed the sprint and the Negate and Destroy, and that was it. So all we needed to do was make sure that he wasn't able to bring back the Bidents, because if we have to commit to the battle phase and try and kill him without using Gigantic, he will be able to summon the Bident back after 3 attacks have been made. And so Gigantic is priority number 1. And then Blue's going to use its effect. Searching Startup because we already went through the Gamma Burst, which is Engrave. We just need to banish the Fenrir. We can use the Gamma Burst in Graveyard to target and to buff up if we need to. But he concedes there. Okay, so for our next game, we're going to be playing up against Omega 1917 with a 1153 rating. And we are going to be going first after winning the Scissors Paper Rock. We're going to be playing against Melodius, pure Melodius, opening hands with 2 Heralds, 1 Ogre, so 2 hand traps from them. They have the Brand Fusion as well in the form of Ostinato and Desires to draw more. Our opening hand is quite insane going first. Obviously you don't want to see 2 Beavers because obviously that means that you'll be able to summon 1 less off sprint, but that is perfectly fine, pardon me, if you're coupling that with a Swap Frog. And Talents will be able to hand rip. So we're going to go draw phase, main phase, standby phase, draw phase, standby phase, main phase 1. And I chose not to start it during the draw phase just because I wanted to potentially rip with Talents. And if I got Ash, that'll be like fine as well, right? Because Beaver is still full combo, Swap Frog can still special itself. So starting with Beaver effect, and it gets met with Orange Light, which is fair enough because he wants to remove my body off the field. And next we're just going to talents to hand rip. And I see the ogre. Ogre's gone. And then we're going to pitch the beaver to special the swap. We know he has nothing here, so we're just going to fast forward through the combo. I'm sure you guys know it. Mirror Mage to search Freezing Chains, Freezing Chains to Reborn, overlay into Toad. Activate Starter, special blue. Blue searches Jet. Jet is searching the double cross. Then we're going to just link off into IP and then set pass. So the reason why I didn't go for sprint, etc., for the Melfi stuff as well is because, well, two beavers are in the graveyard, and so we could have also gone for gigantic, but then double cross doesn't do it as much, and I don't want to really get another starter. I think double cross is just far better, and IP makes for a perfect counter to whatever he's going to bring out, because Ostinato is probably going to get toaded. If not, his desires will get toaded. And the next one will probably be met with... Okay, actually no. So I wanna talk about like why I chose IP, right? And that's because we give double cross a target to steal. I can summon back monsters from my graveyard, for example, the blue or the jet for more recursion. Toad is going to summon during the standby phase, which generates me more bodies for the IP, and also I can just reborn the toad under the IP using double cross if I don't want to extend instead. So let's say if he uses desires first to try and draw, I'll just toad it, summon it back, toad it again. Except this time I'll use the swap frog that I summoned during the standby phase to negate, and then I also have an SP if he can extend past that somehow. And we're moving on to the next game. Next game, I open up entirely engine again, aside from talents. And he opens up with 2 hand traps, first movement solo, refrain, and sonata. First movement solo summons Aria, and then refrain searches couplet. Couplet in the pen zone to search concerto. Yeah. And then Concerto Fusion summons Barker. Give me a second to try and like figure out how that happened. So Barker requires some Melodius, blah blah blah. While you control the decision was cannot be negated. So what is it that allows him to just summon it without fusing things off? Concerto, fusion summon 1 fairy fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand, field, or pen zones. For fusion monsters into graveyard wildcard and blah blah blah. Right. Refrain. While in the main monster zone. So this card places itself into the pen zone from the extra deck. If they both do that. Right, and I'm assuming he used the 2 pen zone cards and then just put them back into the scales, and so to skip steps he put them there. Okay, makes sense. All good. Here's the Shopina. Shopina searches Soprano. Oh, adds back Soprano, sorry. Linking off into Bloom Harmonist. Is the draw on as well of Concerto. Draw into a Veiler. And then Soprano to add back again. Yep. And it's specialed. And he's going to fuse off into Gibberta, which is the DD Crow. He's going to fuse off into Flowering Etoile, one of the newer cards. So he ends on a board of 3 monsters. Flowering Etoile, which banishes his monsters to bounce back an equal amount, so quite good against Spright after stick multiple bodies. He has a DD Crow, so if I guess if I ever discard Angler for cost, then he can banish that. Otherwise, it works against the frog stuff as well. But of course, I sided that out going second. Not the frog stuff entirely, just the ice barrier 2 cards. And then Aria stops his cards from being able to be targeted or destroyed by battle. And then in the hand, scarily enough, he has 3 hand traps, 3 very good hand traps against me. Herald with 2 other fairies to send off. He has a Veiler and an Ogre. I draw for turn, drawing a start, an Angler, which is quite scary to see against Gibberto, because I probably won't be able to trigger the effect from my hand. So I start with a Beaver just to see how he'll respond, and he uses Herald, pitching the Sonata, and that stops the Beaver. Talents to take, and he decides to remove all his bodies off the field. So it isn't up to, so he can just banish it and not give me any bodies, which he does end up doing. I use Starter to summon red. I figured that there was a chance that he had another Herald as well, because I knew that he had 2 fairies in hand, I think. And so there was a small chance there was another Herald. And so if I summoned Jet there, it would have potentially just lost me the game. In this case, the Ogre as well would have done the same thing, because it would have taken my 2 off the field. And so red was just a safer play, blue to then search it, and also I take a little bit less damage. Special carrot, special blue effect search jet. And he tells me that he's lagging here, which is fine, so I put the jet back, and then he ends up Veilering the blue, which makes sense. If he has 2 hand traps, he might as well just wait. So I let that go through. I thought about that one. If I don't let blue through, that means I probably can't OTK him unless Gigantic goes through. And so with 2 cards left, even if it's Herald, I can just link into a Sprint or a Phoenix to discard the last Angler in hand. Then I can make a big Gigantic. Make a Gigantic using the Angler bodies, and then that would be a game. Pitching the Angler to pop. He uses Ogre to remove my Link body, which makes sense. Get rid of the big body, can't make a big Gigantic. And then last card in hand, if it's another hand trap, then fair enough, right? If he has like another Ash, then can't really do much. Gigantic goes through. Special Jet searches Gamma Burst. And that is game. For our last and final game, we lose This Is a Paper Rock, and we're playing up against Alex from Carson with a 350 rating, and of course, it is the mirror match. Not the exact same lists, obviously, because he has Ogre. And this, I guess, showcases some of the flaws that this deck can have, depending on what you're playing up against, right? 2 Cosmics could be really good against some decks, could be tragic against others. But if you draw Cosmics with a combination of some of the other bricks, maybe the Melfi stuff, maybe the Gamma Burst by themselves, it just turns into a pretty horrific hand to play. Either first or second, to be honest. But this one is still playable. You still have a 2, you still have a Jet as well, and Cyclone could hit some stuff depending on what he sets. If he plays Double Cross, well, obviously it won't do too much, but at least it stops a form of interruption. It might force him to just get more extenders, which we don't really want anyway. I also have a Droll, which is decent against this deck. So Swap Frog is dumping the Mirror Mage effect. Add Freezing Chains. We're going to draw on Resolution. Freezing Chains to special back. To make an early Toad. Start out to summon. Ferret. Blue to search. Oh, sorry, blue can't search. And then he makes a Sprint. Sprint to dump Angler. Angler special to Beavers. Can't search on the draw, of course. So he's playing this deck a little bit differently. I prefer keeping the Sprint on field, but I can see why he's doing this. So the reason why he's using the Sprint as mirror is because he wants to go for the IP at the end, and obviously because Sprint can't be linked off, he can't use that to make an IP, or like both Sprint stops it from being linked off as well as IP because it needs 2 non-link monsters. So he ends on a board of Ogre in hand, 1 red, Toad on board, and IP as well. That is it. And so you can see these 2 Cosmics are dead, sadly. The Beaver, the Mage, and the Jet. Like, the Mage is okay, I suppose. But alone, I don't think I could have done too much here. So the play was either to normal the Mirror Mage and then special the Jet, no effect, and then overlay into something else, or maybe link off. But actually, maybe it was playable if we linked off into Sprint. We'll go Sprint, Chainlink 1, Mirror Mage, Chainlink 2. If he chooses to negate that, that's fine. But he has like a banish as well and a red. So I think it was a bit too much to play through. But it was... yeah, I think it's a bit too much. So I actually conceded here because I don't want him to have the info. But I think if I played this out, it wouldn't have worked too well. So we are choosing to go first here. And again, same thing as last game. So if we open starter and talents, I'm going to starter in the main phase just because I don't care if I get drawled. If I can look at your hand and make sure that the rest of my stuff resolves. Because we can still go for the Toad stuff. No, we can't. We can still go for the Melfi stuff through Gigantic winning Caddy. And having the hand info is huge as well. So see how it plays out. We go for the early Gigantic just to try and like nib block us. Yeah, I would rather not try and bait out a nib and an Ash because I can just get early hand info here. Even though Gigantic doesn't summon, I still start in hand. And Ogre does still lock both of us. It does still allow Gigantic to lock both of us because it was destroyed. And it doesn't negate the entire effect like Ash does. And so I'm nib proof now. Now it's just talents to look at hand again. He has 2 swaps, 1 jet, 1 red, and so I hit back the red. And then starter to special. Blue searches jet. Jet searches another starter. And then we're going to link into Sprint. Sprint's going to dump Angler. Angler summons 2 beavers. They're still going to go into Melfi of the Forest. Okay, and here's where I want to talk about another really good thing that I found with this deck, which was if you could not access the swap stuff, whether that be because your Gigantic didn't resolve or because you had to summon Blue and Jet and that just generates more value overall, you still have the option to reborn the Melfi stuff. And so you still have some kind of a strong-ish interaction. And then Double Cross can obviously just bring back the Herald that you'll get. And you also have the Phoenix Chain and the Bounce, so not too shabby. And set the imperms, set Double Cross, set Starter. Starter set just in case we need carrots, or if we want to just special on their turn, special to blue, so that we can use blue again, or so that we're not locked into 2s. So he draws a turn, draws into a Veiler. He normal summons the Veiler, which is a bit confusing, I suppose, but it's effectively the same thing because he can try and bait out some kind of a negate, but that's cool, sure. So we're just gonna caddy here, and here on resolution you can Melfi the Forest this, but like realistically it doesn't really make a difference. If he's gonna crash it, like why would you even summon in the first place? Obviously you should have just used it anyways. Oh, I was a little bit lazy with clicking buttons, so I was like, yeah, doesn't make a difference. But in games do that. Penny in hand to summon Herald. Swap Frog is going to dump. This should have actually been banished. I forgot to banish it because of Herald. And then he's going to summon Jet straight away after, which was obviously a big no-no. I was waiting to see if he was going to dump off Swap, which would again just get banished. Let me check. Summon, you can send one from your deck or face up filtered graveyard. Yep. So it does not for cost, which means that it will just get banished on resolution instead. So give me a second, thinking of no triggers, Sprint to bounce back the swap, and there goes his gameplay. Alright, so in the final round, something else I want to mention is the board breaker approach to his side deck. So instead of running your generic hands, whatever, he just plays a lot of board breakers with thrust and just generic thrust targets, as well as some niche tech ones as well for going first. I actually quite like that idea because like you can effectively turn skip them if they happen to stop you from playing as well, with the help of like DDG or the Magic Deflector. So quite an interesting idea. I quite like it. So here we can see that we opened up one hand trap, a lightning storm, and a droplet. We can hold the imperm for our own turn if we want to potentially send it off Droplet, or we can just, use it on their our turn to stop a carrot so that they no longer have a spell trap negate. Then we can Lightning Storm and Droplet if they have a Toad as well, sending whatever. We also have like the starter as well to chain in, so we can go 1, 2, and then 3 to send off 2 cards here for free. This is interchangeable with the Lightning Storm. And then we also have a 1 card summon starter, which is quite nice. Their hand is draw, red, starter, ogre, and jet. So let's see how the board breaker approach goes. Red, summon jet, jet effect. Flash double cross, no draw here on resolution. Starter's going to summon, summons blue. Blue's going to activate to search carrot. Carrot's going to summon, he's going to go into the link. And yes, he should always go for the link if you already have the carrot and the red on field. But this guy will do it especially because he has, he likes going for the gigantic into the IP play. So at no real point it was a good place to imperm. It just trades like for another body. Maybe I could have done it there when he sprinted, but he would likely just tribute off the sprint instead of the red because he doesn't really care about the body. The sprint being able to bounce. And so gigantic is going to summon the swap. Swap is going to dump. Add back Freezing Chains. Make the IP. Freezing Chains to bring back the Toad. Set the double cross and pass. So let's have a look at what he has. He has a monster negate, a spell trap negate. He has Toad, which is an Omni negate plus recursion in the form of bringing back beavers or anglers or swaps once the Toad goes to the grave. He has an SP here as well, and he has a double cross to bring back the Toad or to just disrupt my play, to take 2s off my body, off my field, or to extend plays. He has a draw to stop you from searching, and an ogre to pop something probably gigantic. So draw, and we draw into such a good card here. Like evenly just does everything, right? So we go to standby main. In draw phase, we're going to activate Toad just in case he wants to summon off the Toad using the effect to summon Swap Frog. And we'll go to main 1. He lets it go through. I think he definitely should have just eaten it and then resummoned it, because if I negate it, like obviously I'm doing it for a reason, right? Otherwise, you can consider using carrot to send off red, but it's a bit expensive. It does also just make it so that your IP hurts a little bit less because you're using a body that's already been used up. But I think the play was just take the imperm, set it on your field, double cross it back, add back the beaver, and then you have essentially the same board again. So we've got battle phase. In between this imperm and the evenly, I activated 0 other cards, which means that it's just a bit rough, I suppose. Because I'm saying that because if I activated any other card, then it would kind of cause him to have the opportunity to use Toad to tribute itself, to attempt to negate. Even though it'll get negated and the effect won't resolve, he can still add back something, and then he can also summon it back for a fresh copy of the Toad. Whereas if I do it here, it's a bit awkward because he can't really Toad anymore. It needs to be next in chain, so he's obviously going to carrot. And because we drew both evenly and droplet to stop the carrot, we essentially can break his board quite easily. I think here, when I said end of battle, he definitely should have... Oh no, I think he was just banking on me having evenly and nothing else. So it would have been fine to tribute off something else. But yeah. I think he really wanted to take my 2. Maybe that's why he didn't double cross anything. There's the carrot negate, and there's the droplet sending off the evenly, which was one hell of a topic. He leaves the Toad behind. Out of those cards, I think that was probably correct. Like, there's no real great card that he could have summoned there. But again, definitely should have used the Toad at some point to just bring back the beaver. If I'm already in my main phase 2 and I'm not killing you, like, you don't need the body, my guy. Next turn, I guess you can summon back. Is this during? Yeah, it is during any standby phase. Okay, I guess you can get another 2 off. But Yeah, okay. Because by doing this, you're kind of just forcing me to remove it off the field for you, which I'll gladly do. Yeah, okay, so normal nimble, summon the angler, and then starter to special the blue effect, which is met with an ogre. Don't entirely think that was correct. Also, I didn't lightning storm because I didn't want him to get back resources, and I felt like I could have just removed it with only Bimaru, which I did end up doing. And he draws me on resolution as well, really fun. So I'm going to special red, link off into Sprint. Sprint's going to dump, angler. Special 2 beavers. Overlay on a Bimaru. Make it really hard here. And we are going to just soul sweep him away. I think he definitely should have at least used it here in response, because even though it's negated, it'll go to the grave. You can add back your beaver. Was definitely better than just having it get banished, right? Because then you don't have a body for ages. You have to rely on top deck against a red and a sprint. Let me think. Starter might have done it, but other than that, nothing else really. And he's already gone through 1 copy, so he had 2 chances of drawing it. And that is about it. So I'm gonna leave it at that, because I think he does get a bit toxic after his next draw. Towards the end there, because I suggested something. But yeah, he draws an imperm, and that is going to be wraps. I hope you guys like that game as well. To wrap things up, I wanted to go through a couple of key takeaway points. One of those being, it is okay to run the Melfi stuff along the frog stuff. It's just a little bit risky because it increases your chances of drawing a dead hand. What I mean by that is, if we look at the deck, there are a bunch of cards that you could potentially draw that essentially do nothing. If drawn together, if you're unlucky enough to draw them together. With 42 cards, you're slightly decreasing the chance of you drawing all the bricks in one go, kind of similar to how a 60 card pile with a bunch of like 1 card dead cards, like garnets, bricks, whatever, are essentially fine to run because you have so many cards in the deck. If we were to draw a hand full of dead cards, actually, if I just look through the list right now, I can kind of piece together a bunch of really bad hands that you would never want to draw. Those being, let's say you draw talents, hand jobs together, cosmics together, chord buys together, double cross, gamma burst, the ice barrier spell, the ice barrier monster itself, if you're not running the Almirage, the Malfi stuff, and I think I mentioned the cosmics already. But overall, it would be better to have a couple of better board breakers in the form of bodies that can serve both as a sprint link target as well as just a board breaker. And of course, I'm referring to Fenrir. I think if you replace the chord buy and possibly the draws for this format at least with Fenrir's instead, I think it'll work a lot better. Chord buy feels a bit unnecessary because we're able to play through hand traps already, and talents kind of just helps us with that as well. And of course, when you're going second or third, you have thrusts to make that a little bit easier after the hand trap you want. For the Melfi stuff, Caddy isn't entirely a brick if you open it in your hand before committing to the Melfi of the Forest and you hard draw it instead. It is still just a free summon, and you can avoid going to Forest, which means that you can probably go into IP, which then banishes 1 on their field, plus you get the Melfi Herald summon. The only thing you're missing is the Finish Chain off the Melfi of the Forest, but it's really worth it to go for that just for the sake of negating 1 monster. Aside from the main deck, when it comes to the side deck, I quite like the idea of thrusting just a bunch of floodgate cards. For example, DDG I think will be quite useful next format. Magic Deflector is quite useful right now, and Evenly, I personally didn't quite like Evenly during the Snake Eyes format just because I felt like we had so much that we had to break through, and they had a lot of recursion as well, which meant that if you didn't kill them on the crackback, you weren't going to win the game. I've kind of changed my mind because I think Evenly now, and then making a board on top of that with let's say like your Toad and your full Spright board, your Melfi board as well, you actually end up with quite a formidable board that your opponent will have a tough time breaking. Aside from that, the things that Toad provides you is quite significant as well. being able to add back a Beaver for next turn adds a lot of follow-up, which means that you can play around Dark Ruler. Even when they Dark Ruler you can still Toad whatever card they activate next, and then you can double cross your Toad back for at least 1 more negate. And coupled with your hand traps, you should be able to at least stop them enough so that you can kill them on the next turn, because they won't be able to kill you through Dark Ruler. With all that being said, a big congratulations to Juan once again, and that would be the end of this video. Take care, laters.